still hearing me?
Yep.
All right, I hear you good.
And I hear you fine.
All right. I don't see you, but that's fine.
No, that's
No,
interesting
no
because
worries.
it's because the screen shows both of us live on Facebook.
Yeah, I see it here too. Oh, no
Okay.
worries. Let's do it like that.
Yeah. Oh man, the technology stuff, I tell you, it kills me.
Oh yeah, it's not
Yeah,
my favorite thing.
I know, I know. So, all right. Well, look, it's good to meet you. Thanks for doing this.
No, my pleasure. Thank you for inviting me.
Oh, for sure, for sure. So I have to do this to you. I took this right from your website. So, how's
Okay,
your kung fu?
my kung fu's good.
I really enjoyed reading the website for it. Listen, was there a time where it was called Kung Fu Patenaude?
Yeah, a while back, like we've used like kung fu like in the 80s and 90s because it was more generic
Yeah,
for business wise. People would associate like kung fu with Bruce Lee and
right.
stuff they've seen on TV compared to being like more too too formal, I guess. So we
Yeah,
went by that name for a while, and that's how
yeah,
people remembered us. In town here in Ottawa, there was like the jiu-jitsu school, the karate school, and the kung fu school for like a
right.
while, for a long time. Yeah.
Well, listen. So the Patenaude story sounds fascinating. So there are over 20 branches throughout Canada now.
Yeah. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. So we
All
have a
right.
lot of schools affiliated together. Yeah.
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 So, okay. So let me recount the story and you correct me or fill in the blanks. Okay.
Okay.
So
All
it's
right.
the, it's unfortunately the late Cijo Jacques who started
Yeah.
everything along with his wife Linda.
That's right.
Right. And I was very sorry to hear. I
So yeah.
mean, now you and I get to talk about this great Kung Fu family, and the clan elder is deceased. I was very sorry to hear that.
Thank you. So it's yeah, an unfortunate accident where they both got in a motorcycle accident. That was something that they did constantly. Like if it was like here in Canada, we have like the four seasons. The summer, the spring, fall, and winter, and it took everything they had like to put the motorcycles away. In the
Right.
winter time, this is something Cijo had done since he was like a teenager, drive Harleys, and unfortunately they were in a fatal accident 4.5 years ago where
Oh my God.
they both passed away at the same time together. So it was
Yeah.
for us right now, our mission for me, my brother-in-laws, my wife, is to continue the legacy and continue what they showed us since we were kids.
Right.
And unfortunately, this is part of life, so it was very hard. It's still hard, but
Yeah.
for us, we know we keep the name alive. And for me myself, I try to make him proud. I kind of think that he sees me from wherever he is, and
Yes.
I want to make sure that he's proud of what I'm doing.
Yeah. Well, from everything that I've seen in doing the research for this call with you, I think you guys are doing a masterful job up there.
Thank you.
And so now you mentioned your the rest of the family. So it's Stefan, Martine,
Yep.
Christine, and
Yep.
Sylvain.
That's right. So that's the four kids. So Stefan and myself are the same age. So Martin is a bit younger than me. Then Christine, which is my wife now. So we met actually in class when I was 9 and she was 5 years old. So we've known each other for a long time.
Oh my
And
God.
so eventually, my Sifu became my my father-in-law, and all my training partners and friends. They all became my in-laws. So that was a special time
Yeah.
during our that was different. Things changed a little bit, but it
Your
all
your
turned out great.
Cijo, your Cijo and his ultimate wife, they met pretty young as well, right?
Oh yeah, very young. So Sijo got left his house. I think he was 16 or 17 years old here in a small town close to Ottawa in Embrun. Left on his own, and I think he met Linda. I believe she was 14 or 15 when they met, and they were like early 20s. They had the four kids, and they were on their own and doing their thing. So they did do like their story to their start and how much they worked to make the schools grow and all that stuff. It's quite amazing to start with absolutely like literally a gym bag as
Yes.
as two teenagers to build that up. So and that's pretty much like if you go for the martial arts, like my Sifu was really strong on using the martial arts as a vehicle for personal development, a lot more than just the fighting. So he was really strong on the discipline, the motivation to use this as a vehicle for success. And I think that starts with they had to struggle a lot when they started out.
Yeah. And the family art is known as Fang Shen Do.
That's right.
And
Which translates to the way of survival, which goes back to if I can go back, maybe do you want to like from you want to see a little bit how that came about, or is that something that you want to talk about?
Of course.
Okay, all right. So my Sifu started out in karate around here in Ottawa, like in the late 60s, 1970s. There was a karate and judo and jiu-jitsu here in Ottawa. There wasn't no kung fu, Jeet Kune Do, anything like that. So Sijo had a black belt in Shituyu karate. He had done boxing since he was like 9 years old. Okay. So he was always into martial arts and into fighting. But then he wanted to get, like the Bruce Lee, 1970s. Bruce Lee passed away. And somebody showed him an article in a black belt magazine that one of Bruce Lee's students was going to do a seminar. And then Sijo went to meet him, did the instructor program with that gentleman, was with him for a long, long time. Then they had a falling out. I was maybe 13 years old when that happened, so I'm not sure exactly what went on there. Then he was looking for something to differentiate himself from, the others. And for him, like struggling in early on and having to build everything, he liked that. And Fang Shen is to protect or to survive, and Do is way, of course. So he combined all that. And I remember when he came up with that name, he was really happy because to him, survive if somebody attacks you in the street, right, but also survive in all the stuff that life throws at you. So he wanted his system to represent the ability to survive at any cost, whatever life throws at you. So that's where Fang Shen Do comes from a little bit.
Yeah, and look, I'll tell you this. I was going to tell you this at the end, but I'll tell you now. You guys might not talk about Jeet Kune Do over and over again, but you certainly apply it in everything that you do.
Well, thank you.
Yeah, no, I mean you're like the living philosophy of Jeet Kune Do. So should we not talk about that earlier connection?
It's not a big thing for me. Like I know they had a falling out. I can't really say exactly why. Right. Yeah. Back then, like I think it was 1990 and 1989. So I was like 12 or 13 or 14 years old maybe. And I know it was stuff with, as always, I believe it was like about, politics, ranks. Yep. I know my Sijo wanted to make it more commercial. This, his main instructor when he started out in the Bruce Lee Arts was James Demile, right, which he was with from 76 to 1990. He did a lot of seminars, and then they had a falling out. Nowadays, falling outs are a lot more common. If I can just how many people have started out with somebody and they've had like 1,500 instructors and they're not happy with the rank they're getting. They changed. Back then, it was a bit more. Didn't happen as much, so they had a bad falling out, I think. And then we just did our own thing from there the whole time. So it's not a big thing for us, but for myself, I know that my Sijo always talked highly about his instructor, never said anything bad about him. Sure. Always told me he learned a lot of stuff from him. He still respected him, and he for me when I was young, I kind of found that he might have said some certain things online about my instructor that were uncalled for and unnecessary. But my Sifu always talked highly about him all the time. So it was part of our history and part of he played a part in what we did. But then we just we ran with it and we did our own thing, which is what he always wanted. He was very very strong on the individual, develop yourself, train yourself, find your own way. Yeah. And he taught us that from a young age. Yeah.
And how old were you when you started?
I was 9 years old, so I started in 1985. Wow.
Okay. I gotta show you something here, and because when I was doing the research on you, right?
Yep.
I was looking. All of you guys look alike. Do you know that?
I've heard that before. Yeah. Yeah. I've heard that
right?
before. And like everywhere I go, everybody would always say, "Oh, your brother is looking for you." No,
Right.
he's my brother-in-law. Oh, your dad is looking for you. No, that's my instructor. He's my father-in-law. It's not my dad. So
Yeah.
that kind of comes in weird when you're married with their sister. Some people might be like, "What the heck?" So no, we didn't do any of
Uh-huh.
that. Like she's not my sister. She's a. So it's yeah, I've heard that before. So
Yeah. So I want to make sure. Wait, it's just giving me a little bit of trouble to pull it up here. But I want to make sure that this is actually you. So give me 1 second here. Let me see if I can get this up. The tech issues, so we don't have to worry about that.
okay,
I'll fix it in like post production and what have you, and then I'll put up the final
okay,
product, right? So
no problem.
here's what I wanted to talk to you about. So it says that Fang Shen Do stresses fitness to an extreme, and
Yeah.
that's why all classes run 60 to 90 minutes. Now, that's not the kids' classes as well, is it?
No, the kids' classes are an hour, 60 minutes.
Okay.
The adult classes are an hour and a half, and then, but it depends if, like, if you're like in my school, if you're doing, you could do the Feng Shen Do class for like is more self defense and fitness oriented, like where you see more of a Jeet Kune Do curriculum,
Right.
closing the gap, trapping, kicks, punches, grappling,
Right.
flow drills, energy drills, stuff like that. And then if you're doing like the MMA program, then you might stay for another hour doing all the kickboxing stuff and then the grappling. So some students, they can be there for 2.5 hours. Most of the time, and we always stress, like I saw the picture I think you were trying to put up, was that the one that I was doing the splits in between the chairs?
Yes.
Yeah, so yeah, I did that. That's last year, so I'm still able to do that,
You
Dwight,
didn't.
and I'm
Oh my
44, so
God.
not too bad, not too bad.
No, wait, I thought that was years ago.
No, that's last year. I can still do that. I
Jeez.
can still do that. Yeah, so I still like we always trained a lot. Cijo was really keen on the skill development. Be fast, be quick, strong, be
Yeah.
tough, be able to take pain, take damage. So we always trained hard. I still spar with all my pros every year. Dave comes in for 5-6 months. I'll be his main training partner. Marc
Right.
Andre, all the guys that fight, I grapple with them, I spar with them. So we always stress, like, martial arts, you should be strong and fit.
Yeah.
So I'm gonna until I can do it, I'm gonna do it. So I'm really inspired by all these. Like Jean LaBelle was grappling in his 60s, and my instructor in grappling is still competing, and so I'm really inspired by these guys now. And there's more guys in the UFC now at late 30s, early 40s doing good. So I think that's awesome.
Right. Yeah. No, it is. It is. So, and here's another thing that it says on the website. It says you leave every class having advanced a specific skill or technique.
Yeah.
So does that mean that in class you might work on just one technique in different ways?
Usually, yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
I think a lot of people use that now. I think if you look at schools that teach grappling, they'll do, okay, today we're doing the armbar, and like 20 ways to do the armbar, get out of the armbar, drill the armbar. Then next week, we'll do side control. So for us, my Siege always had us, let's say we do the straight blast. Well, we're going to do the straight blast today, and we're going to do it, off eye strike, off a deflection, on the pad, on the bag, and we're going to really drill that. And then we're going to do, if we're going to do, a side kick, we're going to drill a side kick with, 10 different footworks. And so this, I still do that, kind of a theme, or that's what we're doing today kind of thing. So I think this gets good results from really doing, instead of doing, okay, we're going to do a deflection, then we're going to do a punch, then we're going to do a weave. Things have to connect each other, and then kind of a rotating curriculum kind of thing. So we always stressed, like, having quality over quantity. So, and again, skill development is most important. So if you look at boxers, there's not that many moves, right? In boxing, like after 2 weeks, you've kind of seen 90% of the moves you're going to use, but the skill you need to be a champion, that's the repetition you need. And I think we always try to, I think a lot of schools do this too, like camouflage repetition. You kind of, we did the same thing, but you didn't notice. You have to find ways for students to, because people now, their attention span, I think the attention span was better before, especially now people, it's, I did 5, I'm done. I'm done, Sifu. What else do I know? Whoa. You only did 5.
That's true.
So I think it's important to camouflage repetition.
Right. Yeah. No, I mean, and that to me is another Jeet Kune Do principle, the principle of the daily decrease. Right.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Chisel away and then find out what works for you. Yeah, for
right.
sure.
But now, if you were working on a specific skill instead of a specific technique, that describe that to me. How would that work instead? Would you then use a series of techniques because you're working on a specific skill, or how is that?
I think if you're using a specific, so let's say we say a reaction speed,
right?
Then for us, we might do a 2x2 drill. Like let's say one we call quick draw. Like I have my hands by my side and I'm trying to, finger jab you in the chest and you're trying to deflect my hand with a parry. Okay. So that's working your reaction speed and my motion speed. So we do that one. Then we probably put the gloves up. And then when you pop the glove, I have to close the gap really fast with a straight lead or with a kick to the groin when you pop the pad up. Then we'd probably do maybe a chisao or some of the inner drills from Filipino martial arts like hubad.
Yeah,
that's all related to reaction, flow, speed, and then we could do sparring drills where you're trying to really hit me with a jab or a cross, and I'm trying to apply my reaction speed. So that's how we probably work on different skill sets every time. Intensity will work. Different power meditations. Then we'll do a different type of push-ups. Then we might do sparring a little bit harder. So all that stuff with a theme in mind, and then it could be a technique. The cross on the punching bag. Then we do the cross stepping in on a pad. Then maybe put the guy with a chest guard, and then I try to drive my cross, and he gives me some feedback. You pushed me. I felt that one. Not really. Yeah, that one was good. So you're trying to get a feel if you're actually doing the same thing on the bag on an actual person. So that's a little bit of the kind of stuff that we train.
Yeah, and
that makes sense.
That's not even the fighter training, right?
No, that's just
even though
regular class.
Yeah. So is that why or how how come so many of, well, I don't want to say so many, but a lot of your people do graduate into even the amateur fighting, correct?
Yeah, like at my school, I think it's I have I would say maybe 20% or close to 30% of my students that compete.
Okay.
So it's kind of high, right? It's kind of high for MMA. I think a lot of people, if you have a grappling school, a lot of people will compete in grappling competitions if you do judo or karate. But to actually go like in amateur MMA and you're getting punched and kicked, and I have almost 25 amateurs, 12 pros. So that's kind of high for just like my school, my own school in Gatineau. So yeah, there's a big, I think now being it mainstream, I think a lot of people see it that it can be a career. Or there's like when I was young, you could barely have like here in Canada, especially there was very little. There's no amateur. There was a couple of pro shows here and there. Mostly they were on the we had Kanawake, Akwesasne. Those are like the Native American territories. That's the only place you had to have those kind of fights. We were kind of a little bit underground kind of thing. So that's where you would go and fight for MMA. That's where it all started around here, when I was, like my early 20s and mid 20s. So now there's so much, like every weekend you can go to an amateur competition somewhere close by. So I think it's a lot more accessible to everybody.
Canada is a kind of a schizophrenic country, isn't it? All right. I mean, you got the British background, right? Then you got the French background. I mean, Queen Elizabeth used to be on your currency, right?
Yeah, I think she still is on a couple. I think the $20 bill. I think, or
so.
I think so. Yeah. We have a big mix here. Yeah. So so you have the English, the French. All kinds of, like around here. And like me, I'm a French Canadian. So we're a small minority of French speaking Canadians surrounded by English people, but some are Scottish descent, German descent. So it's a big mix. And it's a big mix. So it's there's a lot of different people in here.
Right. But can you tell me that? Is there such a thing as a Canadian personality?
I think people see us as very polite. Like that's been like the big thing, but I really don't see, like we're polite, but we have a lot of guys that fight in mixed martial arts. A lot of guys like in Montreal, boxing is big. Hockey, principally like hockey is actually like the only sport where you can punch each other in the face, bare knuckle. and you just get 5 minutes for a penalty. And most of the goons in the NHL throughout history were all Canadian guys, so we're very polite. But I think it's here. It gets really, like right now, it's really cold, so that makes you tough and mean and pissed off because you have to shovel your car every morning and shovel snow. And then the summer comes, then it goes away. I don't know. I think we're a diverse country, and French Canadians, I think we have a bit of that intensity or that bit of like a lot of guys from Quebec have gone to in the UFC, right? I think Quebec people and French Canadians, we have a bit of something to prove since we're a minority and we want to fight for our rights, and the French. And I think it's been always that there used to be a big rivalry with all the English around here when I was young. When you go out to bars or play hockey or sports. So I think we have we have a little chip on our shoulder, I guess you could say. That's a good way of describing it, I would say. Yeah.
Hey, who knows more about whom? Do Americans know more about Canadians or vice versa?
I think like from the Americans I've spoken to when I go on trips, I would say Canadians know a bit more about Americans. Like the Americans that I talk to, they think we live like in a igloo or a hut, and there's never any summer here, and we only drive big trucks with oversized tires, and there's polar bears, and the people, they attack you when you go out, and now it's not like that, So some people, like when I go on trips, it's kind of funny with some of them don't even know where Canada is, unfortunately, when I speak to them. So that's bad.
Yeah. So you mentioned the weapons class and doing the energy drills from like the Hubud and what have you. So your C. Joe, your late C. Joe, he got the ball rolling through James Demile. But so
that's
then,
right.
So how did the Jeet Kune Do element evolve, and how did you guys get down to like the Filipino weaponry and that stuff? What is the source for that?
Okay, so when you started that, even from the beginning, if you go through, like there's all these eras, of course, I'm sure you're aware of that, where they say, the Oakland period, the Seattle period, the Jun Fan period, the Jeet Kune Do. So there's all that stuff that people like to argue about for hours, which I don't find particularly interesting. To me, it's just a progression, which is normal in any martial art. So that the style, or more the background that Sijo got from his instructor, was a lot of modified Wing Chun, boxing, judo. There was less of like a dozen martial arts in there. It was a hybrid, and it was like an eclectic system, but there was still like a base in modified Wing Chun, the boxing, and the judo a lot. And he always liked the karate with the kicks, and he always liked boxing. He always told us, you have to have good hands, good footwork. Right. Go do your running, do your push-ups. The Philo martial arts came in early to mid 80s when Sijo and my brother-in-law Martin, he was really young, like I think he was 12 or 13. They went to some Indo Santo seminars.
Okay.
And they got introduced to, those weekend retreats that he used to do like almost 30 years ago in the weapons. And then we continued, Martin continued some training with different people, and a lot of them with Anthony Kleeman, which is, he's a high ranking in Doce Pares, the Kakoy Kanyete style of Kali. So we've all blended all that in with what we've used to do before. And, we train with different boxing coaches and fighters, and Sijo was good friends with Bob Wall. So we got to meet, Jean Labelle, Gokor. So we've been training grappling with them for a very long time. Had the chance, to do some privates with guys like Benny De Jedrick. All these guys came through friendships or people that we knew. So we always learn from any source I can find. Sijo always told us, find the best people that you have a good connection with, and that you enjoy learning from. And even if it's one thing that I can take out from a seminar or a training, I'm happy with it. So I've always been open-minded about learning from a lot of different people, especially people like that have been around for decades and are legends in the martial arts. So whichever martial art it is. So the weapons and the energy drill came in like in the mid 80s, and we've just continued to progress and to research and to train and to practice that. I think there's a lot of value from the Filipino martial arts, especially for speed and skill and coordination. And it's I think though any Filipino martial arts style is there's a lot of value to it.
Yeah. I'm always impressed and intrigued by people who have successful schools. Like I'm always interested in finding out the structure behind their curriculum. So let's say I'm 4 years old. I've never trained in martial arts. and I come to your
Yeah.
school in Gatineau, what happens to me?
Yes. It would depend on which program you would decide to try. Some people just do the Fang Shen Do, which is more self-defense, fitness, martial arts, I would say. Well, I don't want to use like the term traditional martial art, but
Yeah.
more of a passive martial art. You're not going to go, you do some full contact sparring, step into the octagon cage, do all the sanda, catch wrestling. So if you do that, then you're going to start like at the base, basic punching, closing the gap, how to stand, basic deflections, footwork. And gradually, like every class, the basic kicks, the basic punches, basic entries, traps, energy drills to start off like palm fansao to get you introduced to energy drills. Each level in our system has a different energy drills, like from Hubud to some different Wing Chun drill, like Chi Sao, fansao rotation, some stuff Bruce Lee did with some of his students that's not as well known or they don't do as much. Clinching work, all that stuff. And then you're going to start in the sticks, you're going to start the same thing, learning basic angles, basic footworks, deflections, drills for coordination and speed, from different ranges, long range, short range, mid range, and you're all going to blend that. And then we're going to try to get you in shape. The first thing, you'll do some circuit training, finish up with some punches at the end. And then the people who want to do the MMA start the same way, basic boxing combinations, kicks, clinch, the base and all the ranges of fighting, from punching, kicking, trapping, the grappling. Same thing goes for our grappling program, the basic positions. So I think everything starts like that, but we tend to get people to move quickly and to get a lot of stuff with the rotating curriculum and to make them experiment as much as possible. But the first thing is to make them get in shape. I think people, if you're not physically fit, it's very hard to learn martial arts properly. You're always winded, you're tired, and people get discouraged, right, if they don't feel progression. So we always try to make them, get a decent level of cardio and that they feel good about themselves so that they want to learn more and that they have fun doing it. Because I've always been a strong believer since I was a kid in the benefits that I got from martial arts. So when I teach, I try to make that the class is the most fun part of their day.
Right.
Every time I teach, I try to put that in my head. That's the most fun part of their day is when they're going to come to class. I want them to feel good, learn something valuable, enjoy the training. And I want them to come back for more. Make it literally make it a way of life. That it's something that is they find a value in doing this.
Yeah, because it sounds like you're training a mindset as much as you're training.
Yes, absolutely.
As much as you're training them physically, you're training them emotionally and mentally as well.
Guaranteed. That's something that, like I said earlier, from Cijo's background, having to struggle a lot, having to do a lot of stuff himself, having, not that far, in his mid-30s, having that fallout with his instructor where he wanted to like rebuild and do something strong with his family, with his kids, having all the kids involved as well. You have all your kids involved. They all have schools. They all train. So for us, it was a vehicle for success and, to be confident and to be able to face life challenges. And we want to share that with people, those tools that, give us those skills and that mindset. That's part of training as well. I think martial arts should be a lot more than just, who can beat who can tap who can knock out who. Right. I think it's got to be more than that, because if you don't do mixed martial arts or compete, you're not going to fight that often. If you fight 3-4 times a year, you got to find a new neighborhood, or maybe you're the problem. So there's something not right there.
Right. So the first school was in Ottawa, correct?
That's right. It was in Ottawa. And Cijo started with a couple of students in 1979. So he's got it's something he never talked about, but I was like, geez, he had to be one of the first or earliest guys to bring back like that, the Bruce Lee arts or the Bruce Lee lineage to Canada, because there wasn't that many guys back then doing it. That's for sure.
Right. And then the second school, so to speak, was upstairs at the rec center in is it Casselman?
Yeah, that's where I live, in Casselman. It's a small town about an hour and a half from Montreal and 30 minutes from Ottawa. So in between Montreal and Ottawa. And that's where Cijo grew up, in Embrun, which is another small town, like all close together. Like Casselman has about 3,000 people that live here. In Embrun, maybe 4,000 or 5,000 people that live in that small town. So two small towns, and that's the area where he grew up in. So he opened up a small school in the rec center here a long time ago, like in 1985. And that's the first time, that's where I signed up when I was a kid.
Right. Okay. So now you got to tell me about the evolution of the business model. Because how do you go from one small location with a few students in Ottawa to over 20 affiliated schools throughout the country.
That came in from directly. I think the biggest thing was that we were all involved when we got to, myself, I opened up my school with Stefan, my brother-in-law, that we had been in school together since kindergarten, trained together. He's the one that got, he's the one who told me my dad's going to do a kids class. You should come, because before he only had before 1985, we would only teach 16 years old and over. Sijo wasn't big on teaching kids back then. So we had the first kids class, and that's when I signed up. And then when we were 18, 19 years old, right out of high school, myself, Stefan, and Martin we all opened up these schools, like in Orleans and in Gatineau and Montreal. So we got the ball rolling, being very, excited and motivated about sharing all this, which we had been doing, for 15 years. And then we developed, black belts and instructors. They said, I'd like to do this as well. It's a nice profession that you can help people and get fit and train and be your own boss. So then we just did like affiliate schools, and then it just snowballed from, 4 or 5 of us being very enthusiastic and being very, like, at one point I had 3 schools myself running, and Elmer, which is a small town close to Gatineau, Buckingham, which is like a suburb of Gatineau. And then I sold those schools to some of my black belts that had been with me for 11, 12 years. Okay. So now they're doing those schools, and Martin had about 5 or 6 of his black belts open up in, in the Montreal area. So it kind of snowballed from us being very motivated by Sijo and his philosophy. So it kind of just went with it, and having all these guys having a good curriculum and a good program in place, it was it all came together very fast, actually. Boom.
Did you study like with any of the martial art business people or what have you?
No, not really. Like we did that really like after Sijo was the very how would I say this? He was always about like his gut feeling. Martial art wise, you have to follow your gut, follow what you feel is right. And he was never like, okay, we're going to do a business plan. We're going to have a evaluation of the location. We're going to, get somebody to come in and make sure he just, does that sound good, that place? Like over here, it's a nice building. There's houses around. All right. It'll work. So that's the kind of the guy he was. And that's how we were too. Okay, we'll open up there. People will come. And then we just had a lot of, like I said, enthusiasm and faith kind of thing. So I think that's important to have, faith in yourself, faith in what you're doing. And it's going to be contagious, and people are going to be attracted to it if you're genuine. And I think for myself, I know I'm genuine when I want to help. Somebody wants to be in the UFC, I'm going to try to do my best to get you to be the UFC. You want to be the next Dave Leduc and fight at the lightweight championships, I'm going to try to get you there. If you just want to lose, 15 pounds and feel more healthy, and you might be shy a little bit and you need to, be more assertive, that's just as valid as, trying to go to the UFC for me. So I think people feel that, and that's, you always attract people when you have that energy.
Right. Yeah. And going back to the person that comes in, the standard offer is like a week, a free week, right? 7 days or something.
Yeah. So they get to try, because honestly, I think you've seen this before as well, being a martial arts for a long time. Most people, if they've done martial arts before, they have an idea of what they want to do, right? If I have somebody who comes in and he wants to compete, and he's done kickboxing or boxing before, and now he wants to train more seriously, and he wants to, like, I have guys that used to teach at the schools that they want to learn more in depth, or they want to come and spar with the guys because there's a good caliber of students, or they've done the judo before, now they want to do everything else. But somebody who's never done anything, they kind of have no clue what they want to do.
Right.
And they have all these books and magazines telling them this, or they've seen something on TV. So I have people come in, they say, I want to do the grappling. And then they grapple and they actually find out, I hate having somebody on top of me that's sweating. I don't like getting twisted. I want to do the punches on the pads. Or some people, they think they want to do the kickboxing, and they end up watching the other class after with the weapons and self-defense. And they're like, that's what I would like. So we offer the week so people can come in and try all the classes that we have, get to see what we do, and we get to see if they're serious as well. They get to meet the students. They get to meet different instructors than myself. So for us, it's, give it a try for a week. We're confident in what we do. And at the same time, maybe you'll find out that there's some stuff that you didn't know about. So I've found that most people, if they haven't trained before, they don't really know what they want to learn or what they're interested in.
Okay. And how did you get started fighting?
Uh, I had a big chip on my shoulder when I was a kid. I came from a family like here in. My grandfather was like the local tavern here in Casselman when I was like not here when I was my grandfather was the bouncer here for and the doorman at the local tavern in my town for like 25 years. Then
Wow.
I grew up in a family where fighting was very encouraged, was normal. It was that was like their trademark for like the on my mother's side the family around here. So I grew up with that's like a good thing to do. You know, it's encouraged, it's cool. They all did the boxing and the fighting, and I would hear the stories about, you know, my grandfather did this, did that. So for me, I was always like, that's cool. You know, you got that's important.
Okay.
So I always liked to fight, always liked to scrap. I always got in trouble, and then when I started doing kung fu, I just took it like, you know, like they say, a fish to water. I loved training. I love the discipline of it. I love the military side of it. I enjoy everything that has to do with the martial arts,
Yeah.
from the respect that it goes with your teacher, the training, and then fighting was just something here. It was hard in our area. Like I said earlier, there was not a lot of amateur fights. Like when I was young and teenager, there was Jean-Yves Thériault was a kickboxing champion around here in Ottawa, but it was a traditional kickboxing. You know, no elbows, no knees, no low kicks.
Right.
It wasn't something that we were really in. I wasn't interested in that. So I did a lot of smoker fights, like in-house stuff, different schools against schools, stuff like that. I did a lot of those. I also worked as a bouncer for about 4 years, mid 20s. That's something I just wanted to do for myself, you know, kind of a research kind of thing, you know, you
Yeah.
want to see what the real life is all about. So I did that for that, you know, today. It was almost like a training for me at the same time. And then there was a couple of pro leagues that started out again on the I did a IFC International Fighting Championships that they came to Kanawake a long time. I was 23 years old, so I was in like 1999, like in the 2000s, and I
Mhm.
did another pro fight in the WEC in Laval, Quebec. 2003, so a while back. I was 24 and 27, so I did those two pro fights. I won those. uh, I was happy with that. Back then it was like a lot of money, you know, $200, $300. So it wasn't something that you could make a living out of. Absolutely not. So for me, I'd done a lot of fights. I had done the two pro fights, and it's just something I had to do for myself. And I still to this day, you know, I sparred this morning with I spar like almost every day. I roll every day. I love the training and the physical aspect of fighting. I like to prepare my guys.
Mhm.
I think if it would have been as developed as today as it was when I was in my 20s, I think I would have fought a lot more, and I
Yeah.
would have competed a lot more. If you could, you know, make a career out of this and fight often.
Yeah.
But you know, I'm 44 years old, and MMA kind of took off when I was, you know, my school was growing. I was getting married. I had my family. So for me, it wasn't valid, you know, to go break my hands and perhaps get injured and not be able to teach and train and to develop everything I was doing. So I'm happy with what I did. And it's just something I had to do. And I still today, if I have a chance to spar or grapple or actually train with one of my pros, or if somebody comes in from another school and he's coming in for a week and he wants to spar, I'll always put the gloves with them and train. So it's something that I enjoy.
Yeah. Um, do me a favor, because I heard you talk about Kyoshu in an interview, right?
Yeah.
And I
Yep.
thought, okay, let me ask him to explain for people, because I think this is something that you could do a good job of explaining. Explain to people the difference
Okay.
between kung fu, wushu, and kyoshu.
The Kyushu that we had was there's a gentleman here in Montreal. It's Fernand Morneau. He used to do a lot of those competitions around here. He's the kind of guy who goes to China half of the year, lives in Canada here the other year. So wushu is more like, from my understanding, is the term that, you know, if you go to China, wushu is generally everything that has to do with martial arts. You know, your kung fu, which are you doing Wing Chun, you're doing Choli Foot, you're doing Tai Chi, anything that has to do with Sanda, Sancho, which is like the fighting, the kickboxing style in kung fu that they use. So wushu, that's what it is. If you do Sanda or Sancho, you're going to be punching, kicking, and doing throws. There's no grappling. That's the kind of stuff like Kung Lee that was is famous for. And a lot of MMA guys now have a background in Sanda or Sancho. The Kyushu that we did when we did a couple of those competitions with Fernand was you had like very small gloves, and it was bare. Like to me, like the way he did it was like full contact kung fu. That's the best way to describe it. You know, it's punching, kicking, elbows, knees, throw, standing submissions. They didn't really matter. Like they didn't follow too much weight divisions back then, so it was a kind of a freestyle kung fu. Just and we used to wear those little punching bag gloves, which are like they made out of foam,
Uh-huh.
but looks like a forearm protector. That's what he used to have,
Right.
and little cloth shin pads.
Wow.
Does
Wow.
that is that kind of the good
Yeah,
answer?
because I don't think that a lot of people are even aware of the term Kyushu.
No, this is there's not a lot of that going around. It's very similar to Sanda, but
Right.
I would say that if compared to two ways of fighting, the Kyushu would they would have a lot less rules, and they were a lot more freestyle. You know, it was kind of more just fight. So
Yeah.
this is and this particular gentleman did a lot of those himself when he was younger. I think in the 70s,
Yeah.
and he's the one who had those competitions around here when I was in my late 20s, early 30s, and that's he was the same one who promoted one of those MMA fights. So that's how I knew him, and that's how
Got
he
it.
asked us to participate in MMA later on. So
Right.
we had met him through those fights. Yeah.
Okay. All right. Now, I came across this. It says in the Myanmar Times, Leduc explained
Yes.
how Marcil was getting him ready for Letway and taught him the principles of Jeet Kune Do.
Yes, sir.
Okay, you got to tell me how you did that.
Litway, like is something I always enjoy reading about martial arts. Like I'm very passionate about martial arts. I like to watch fights when I'm not training. I'm
Yeah.
going to read books. I'm going to do like you obviously do a lot of research. So I think we have similar similar interests like that we read a lot. And Burmese boxing and Letway is something that I had read about when I was younger. And they would fight in pits, and they were bare knuckles, and they had almost no restrictions, and it's 2,000-year-old art. And I just thought that was very, very interesting, that it was like so there was very little limits to what you could do as far as stand up in Letway, and that they start doing this when they're little kids. So like it's incredible to think about how tough they are. And this is something I showed Dave when he was Dave starting with me when he was 17 years old.
Mhm.
Actually, in the grappling class, he just wanted to compete in grappling. And after 2 years, I think I said, you have a long, lean body. I've seen, when we do the striking class, you're very natural at it. Did you think about, maybe trying some of those competitions? And I
Oh, man. Hang on. Okay, yeah, it's coming back up on my end. When this thing works, it works really well, but when it doesn't, and it's a new system that I'm using. We used to use Facebook itself, but then Facebook dropped the whole ability to go live. So now I'm using this thing, but sometimes it's a little bit sketchy. All right, hold on 1 second. I'm just trying to get you back up on screen. Yeah, I only have I need about 5 more minutes of your time. Good, good. I'm glad to hear. So sometimes when the technical stuff happens, it just messes everybody up. All right, so yeah. All right, it's not. You had just started talking about Letway and how Dave got started training, but yeah. All right, give me 1 second. All right, cool. Okay, here we go. Okay, can you hear me?
Perfect.
All
Yeah,
right.
I hear you good.
Okay. All right. Cool. Okay. So yeah. So we were talking about how it was reported that you started to get Leduc ready for Letway by showing him Jeet Kune Do principles.
Yeah, for sure. I started showing him Dave when he started with me. He was an aggressive guy. Was always I found him to be a natural fighter. Like he could pick up moves very quickly. He
Yeah.
wanted to compete. He was 17 years old when he started with me, and then yeah, I showed him videos of Letway. You know, I've been like you. I research a lot. I enjoy reading about martial arts, and Burmese boxing is something I'd seen like in magazines when I was a kid. It's something that I always was impressed by how this is like a culture for them. It's actually almost like
Right.
a religion.
Yeah.
And going there over there twice to coach them, I can attest. It's a special thing to see how much they love that lead way and how it's in the culture and it's everywhere. It's like the
Right.
only thing that exists when there's an event going on. And they
Yeah.
start doing this, 8, 9 years old, fighting bare knuckles. So it's kind of intense compared to like around here, right, where they protect people can't do anything anymore. So
Yeah.
I seen all that. I showed this to Dave, and he says, "I want to do that, Sifu, eventually."
Wow.
So he competed in Muay Thai for a couple of years. He's 14-1 in Muay Thai. He would go to Thailand, come back, Thailand to come back, and then after he did the good fight, he fought a strong Thai fighter, and then they invited him to fight the Burmese champion, which most of the time the Burmese win in Letway, like 80-90% of the time when they fight.
Right. And it was pretty much at that point that the technology gods decided that they had had enough of me on Facebook, or trying to be on Facebook Live at that point. And so everything pretty much cut out. Sifu Patrick and I were on probably only for another 5 minutes or so. So you'll miss that. But my deepest apologies to him, and also to everybody who tunes in for the Jeet Kune Do dialogues. If you know anything about what's been going on at Facebook, then you know it's been really hard to find a platform to continue doing the Facebook Live. There are some other options that I have to look into. This was the first option, and it worked out pretty well up to a point, but we'll have to see how we do this from here on. But be assured that even if it means not being able to go live, there's no way that the Jeet Kune Do dialogues will not continue. And on that note, next Friday, 6 p.m., which is I forget the date, I don't have my notes here in front of me, but we will be on with Bruce Lee historian and author Steve Carriage, and I'm pretty sure it's at 6 p.m. Okay, so you guys know the deal. Follow me on Twitter at Dwight Woods, on Instagram at Dwight D. Woods. At ilovejeetkunዶ.com, the quick sales series is available. Subscribe over on the YouTube for all the programs, Jeet Kune Do Dialogues, I Love Jeet Kune Do Broadcasts, and FMA files. And that's it. I will see you here, some of you next Wednesday for the broadcast, some of you next Friday for another episode of the Jeet Kune Do Dialogues. This is Dwight Woods, the Jeet Kune Do Rebel, signing off. Have a great weekend. See you next time. Take care.